Well, happy fall day, or whatever we might call it, the equinox. That happened this morning about 9 in the morning. And it is autumn now. And it sure looks like it on these videos here. Everything looks so brown. Definitely kind of a beautiful day outside, but things are about to change. And it doesn't quite look like it on the surface map. Let me bring up my drawing tool here. And you've probably had a chance to look at this chart real quick, and you can see we have a southerly gradient in place. So we're bringing up kind of a very weak southeasterly flow from the Gulf. But if you look out to the west, out in the high plains in New Mexico, a lot of isobars out there. And that's reflecting pressure falls out in that area. And on the actual surface plots, you can see lots of 60s dew points. But you go out west and the air is a little bit drier, but enough to support some high-based storms around the Taos and Santa Fe and Albuquerque area. Let's zoom out a little bit further and show you what's going on. And I'm going to start showing you this map a little bit more, because this shows the thermal structure of the atmosphere. This is isobars and 1,000 through 500 millibar thickness. So this is your average temperature in the lower 5 kilometers. Now, moisture does factor into it to a certain extent, but we're mostly seeing a reflection of temperature here. And you probably remember from yesterday's newscast or weathercast, we like to look at the equatorward side of these pressure gradients. So that's where we're going to find the fronts. So before we start looking at the maps, this gives us kind of a good game plan where we're going to find these surface boundaries. And one thing we can see here, you see this closed red contour in Oregon, Washington, and northwestern Nevada. That represents the core of a Pacific air mass. So I'll just draw that real quick. So that's a big chunk of cool air. And anywhere around that area is warmer. So this is actually the core of that cool air coming into the western U.S. And you can see a lot of showers along that frontal zone in Utah, in Idaho, and western Wyoming. So there we go. There's our basic game plan, and I'll just point out this high pressure area over Manitoba and a very weak Bermuda high over the eastern U.S. It extends well inland into Texas, but it's a bit on the weak side there. And we also see another little front coming in from the Pacific. See, that shows up pretty well there. So that's going to be our next system coming in. So let's take a look at a couple of the charts. I'm going to switch over to the southwest U.S. because that's where the action is happening. And our map comes up, and look at that. We got kind of a squall line going through western Utah and just west of the Grand Canyon. And behind that you can see westerly flow and northwest flow there at Tonopah and Ely. And out ahead of it, southerly flow, so that represents the front. And so just basically going off this, we're probably looking at something like that for our surface front. And another way we can look at that is with digital atmosphere using the streamline analysis. And this is showing a little bit of, it's showing mainly the convergence we have over Wyoming right here. But you can see some tendrils going out to the west, showing a frontal boundary out here. And of course we have the monsoon trough in New Mexico, and that's responsible for the showers there. So things are heavily being dominated by the inflow into that western U.S. system there. So that's the big story here. And let's see, I'll bring up one more chart for you. I actually don't have that chart. But that's fine, we can make a new one. I'm going to go to the polar orbiter satellites using Aqua and Terra because they're very photogenic. And we'll zoom in on the west coast here. And this is just a few hours ago. We'll wait for the state lines to come up, and here we're looking at Nevada. And you can see that squall line starting to come together right here from south of Boise all the way down to Tonopah. And clouds very vertical in that thing. And that's pretty strong for central Nevada. When I worked there 3 years, I don't think I really remember seeing anything quite this strong there. So definitely a very good system coming on shore, or through the Great Basin area. All right, let's see here. What are we going to do next? I think I will take you to the NHC panels, and there's Carl out there still wandering around, and it's been kind of dominating this area here. And I think that's heading north towards Bermuda and recurving to the north. Same thing with Lisa heading north, and we're watching this next system coming off the Liberian coast. And there it is. This is the Liberian coast. And we're watching this short wave, or this easterly wave, coming off the coast right there. And I'll show you how that comes together on the GFS charts. So let me run the forecast through. This is going to be the precipitable water and pressure. So starting out right now, you can see that big low pressure system there in Utah. And our fronts are kind of looking like that. And we're starting to bring up this very moist blob of tropical air off the Texas coast. So as we get into the weekend, Friday and Saturday, there it comes. Big old 1.5 inch precipitable waters coming into Texas, so chances of precip are going to go up. And now that Pacific system makes its way through the Rockies and into the high plains. So by Sunday, things are going to start looking like this. So big frontal system coming down through Oklahoma, North Texas, and we're probably going to see a squall line or a broken area of showers, probably from western Arkansas all the way down through Dallas-Fort Worth and into the Concho Valley. Then that air mass will clear the central U.S., and you can see it bringing in a lot of drier air. Maybe temperatures a little bit on the cool side, maybe about 10 degrees below normal. And by the middle of next week, that air mass makes some headway into the eastern U.S. Looks like a little bit of a tropical depression off the South Texas coast there. And look what's coming up from the southeast. It's like a new system here. We're down to 120 hours, so we're starting to get within the window where these models are accurate. And so we have this system coming into the Leeward Islands. So by September 29th, Thursday, it's passing near Puerto Rico, which just had a massive power outage. I don't know if you saw that in the news. I think that was yesterday. And the general idea is it's going to bring that across Dominica and then recurve northward. So there is the potential for that to come into Florida. And then the rest of the week, that's going to be dominated by this cool high pressure working into the eastern U.S. So it looks like we're going to start finally seeing a bit of a cool down, and you can see on that chart, I don't see any tropical air here in Texas. I see a cool, mild northeasterly flow. So I think we're going to be done with the deep tropical air for a while, which is good news. It looks like kind of a vague low-pressure system there in the Gulf of Mexico the first week of October. Other than that, not a whole lot going on there. And let's take one more look at that hurricane. We'll go out to the Atlantic and look at the GFS. And here we have the model at 240 hours out on Sunday, October 2nd. And now we're going to run it backwards. So there we go. By September 30th, it's over Puerto Rico. We back that up, and you can follow it all the way into the middle of the Atlantic right here, September 26th. And then the weekend, and then right now, there it is, right there on the coast of Liberia. So that's what we looked at on the polar orbiter data. And it's time for something else. All right, guys, for this geography segment, I'm going to take you a little bit westward. We'll go into Russia, because that's going to start factoring a tiny bit into our forecast. Siberia here. You can see it's dominated by this very low valley area. I think that's the Lena River, either that one or the next one over. And then there's also this mountainous region right here. This is a huge production area for Arctic air. And sometimes chunks of that do make their way northeast across the Laptev Sea into Alaska. And some of the lowest temperatures ever, and we're talking about -80, have been in these mountains right here. And there's one town called Oymyakon. Let me see if I can bring that up, and we'll take a close look at that village and watch it zoom in. And there it is. You can see that's lying in this valley region. And those valley regions do tend to trap a lot of cold air. We see the same thing in the Yukon, places like Dawson and Whitehorse. You tend to get trapping of an inversion, and that cuts off the lowest 1,000 feet of the atmosphere, and you get some very cold air masses underneath there. And there's a few panorama photos. Maybe I can bring that up real quick, show you what that area looks like. This is the cold pole of the northern hemisphere. And that's probably actually the weather station right there. And just to show you how cold we're talking about, let's see here. There's the temperature graphs for Yakutsk, which is a little bit west of there. You can see these highs, 78 degrees in the summertime, 56 at night, so that's fairly warm. And then by September 20th, right now, we're looking at 51 for a high and just below freezing at nighttime. And then we go all the way to the holidays. Christmas, we're down at -34 with -42 for normal temperatures at night. So those are some very crazy annual oscillations there. And it's not just that, they get all the mosquitoes and mud and all that. Check around for the road to Yakutsk, mud road. You'll see some very crazy pictures. I'm not going to bring that up since I don't really have time, but there's a road that goes from, yeah, see this road right here? You can go to Panoramio or Google Images and check out some shots along that road. There's some very crazy pics of that road in mud season. Okay, and one other cool thing I want to show you, there's a very cool documentary on these Arctic stations in Russia. And by Arctic stations, I'm talking about, this is the current map here for Russia. It's showing highs or temperatures right now in Siberia in the upper 30s to low 40s. It's like a little bit of low pressure there. And there's one station way out here in this area of the Arctic coast, right in that region right there. There's a documentary on YouTube which is actually really good. It's called Arctic Limbo. And I definitely recommend checking that out if you have time. It shows weather observers on this along the Arctic coast dealing with all the problems that they have out there. So it's called Arctic Limbo, and the channel is RT Documentary. I think that's the Russian government there. All right, let's see. Is that it? I think that is it, guys. I've got nothing else to pass along, really. I think that's going to do it. I did try to set up 3 monitors here. And I was going to, because I'm having trouble, dealing with all these windows. I've got windows open and all across my desktops. And I tried to hook up a 3rd monitor here about an hour ago. And Windows Setup would not take that 3rd monitor. It kept reverting the other window every time you activated it. And when I went to the other monitor, it would deactivate the other one. And it turns out it's the graphics card. It can only support 2 monitors. So if you happen to have a spare video card that supports 3 monitors, you're welcome to send that along. And, I'll be glad to get that up and running. That will help this video cast. I really don't want to spend the money on that right now because I've got a lot of other commitments here. If you want to contribute to the funds, you can do that at weathergraphics.com/pay, and I'll put that towards the weathercast. And that will help things go a little smoother. If not, I'll try to get that ordered when the budget allows here. So hopefully we'll get that up and running. I'm trying to kind of get the equipment up to speed here, and we are going to need that 3rd monitor running eventually. So what I'm trying to do is get a graphics card that supports 3 monitors. Right now I'm running an NVIDIA 630, and that's not quite enough here. So I think that's going to do it for me today. I'm going to check over and say hello on chat and hi to everybody. Some good comments about the geography section. And yeah, somebody mentioned the graphics card. I'm trying to get that up and running here. So I will see you at the same time tomorrow, 8 o'clock. And thank you very much for watching. Take care.